So my daily life before the semester started, I'd say I'd probably go through about 4 to 5 plastic water bottle or just plastic bottled drinks in a day. So let's say, for example, start out with one in the morning, maybe grab one out of the vending machine after my morning classes on campus, grab a Gatorade bottle at Fike after I work out, or maybe at lunch at Hendrix. And then usually there's always one extra one in there somewhere, maybe an extracurricular meeting or spend an extra late night at the library. So instead of going through all those plastic water bottles a day, I decided for 4 weeks this semester to use this reusable plastic water bottle. So for 4 weeks, I used this for any time I ever got a drink outside of my apartment. So whether I was filling up at a water fountain on campus, in the dining hall, filling up with Powerade or any type of other drink. Any drink that I used outside of my apartment with our own glasses, I was using this. The importance of this project is huge. In America, in this past year, we probably used about 50 billion plastic bottles. And our recycling rate is maybe about 23-25%. So that means a good 35 billion plastic bottles are just being wasted every year. And on top of that, the oil and energy that's used to produce our annual consumption of plastic bottles could power over 1 million cars and power close to 200,000 homes. So if everyone was able to cut down on their plastic bottle consumption and use, say, a reusable plastic bottle, the environmental benefits and just our overall American consumption of energy and plastics and resources and whatnot, it would be huge. So during the time I was doing this project, in the first week, consumed about 18 bottles. Second week, consumed about 21. Third week was about 16. Fourth week was 19. Combine all those together for the entire time I was doing this project over those 4 weeks, turns into about 74 bottles I ended up saving by using my reusable water bottle. So in terms of money that ended up saving me, it's right about $32, cha-ching. And then in terms of plastic that saved, it was just over 25 ounces that I ended up saving. Now the biggest thing that probably affected my data would be the weather. With the snow and just hectic weather that we had during the 4 weeks that I was performing this project, I definitely decreased the amount of refills I could have potentially had on certain days. On the days that we would have snow cancellations, maybe we'd go through about 1 or 2 refills. Just because I was sitting around the apartment, need to perform some kind of data, so I had something, didn't want to totally leave those days out. If I was doing this project during the fall semester when there is no snow, probably could have gone through about 5 or 6 bottles a day on each of these projects just because of the humidity and the consistent heat. So in terms of my total, the weather definitely probably played a part. Now I'd like to create just a visual representation of what my project means to myself, and my roommates, my close friends, and my classes at Clemson, and just our community as a whole. So I by myself went through about 4 plastic water bottles a day, which turned into about 20 bottles a week. So for the full 4-week period, it was just about 80 bottles. So let's say all of my roommates did that. Now what about everyone in our environmental ethics class? Now what about if everyone in all of my classes at Clemson did that? So about 150 to 200 people. So the biggest implications for me in terms of the results from my project, one would be the health benefits. With the reusable water bottle, I tend to lean towards better liquids that are just more healthy and end up being more hydrating. So like I tend to go for water instead of like a Powerade or Coca-Cola. And then the other big benefit would just be the money that I saved. I usually, before I started the project, would usually go to buy low, pick up big 24 or 48 pack of water bottles. Usually last me about 2 or 3 weeks or so. So now I'm saving money on that as well. So that can go towards other more beneficial sources. So now just for some implications of my data in terms of our Clemson student body as a whole. So here at Clemson we have about 21,000 students total enrollment. So if every one of the students was to conduct my project and get similar results to what I got for these 4 weeks, our entire student body during those 4 weeks would have potentially saved about 554,400 ounces of plastic, and our student body would have also saved about 1,554,000 plastic bottles during that 4 weeks as well. In terms of just environmental implications, obviously it's less plastic going into landfills, but also means that there's less land being destroyed for digging more landfills. So we're cutting down on our plastic consumption and saving the environment for animals and humans that are living in the environments where these landfills are being dug. Economically, people will be spending less money on bottled drinks. Bottled drink on campus usually averages about $1.50, so people are saving about $2,331,000 for our student body as a whole during those 4 weeks. Now after doing this project, I would definitely recommend that everyone at Clemson and our entire community tries to implement this practice of using a reusable water bottle. At least for me, it's going to save me a bunch of money. It will also cut down my plastic consumption. For our entire Clemson community, if no one was to use a reusable water bottle, we would go through about 8.4 million bottles a year, which is about 2.5 million ounces of plastic. So if everyone is able to implement using a reusable water bottle, we would significantly cut down on our plastic consumption every year. We could cut down on the amount of money that we're spending. I would just greatly improve our environment as a whole. Norton's weak anthropocentrism provides a basis for criticism of value systems that exploit nature. Norton's ethic places nature in a role of teacher of human values. This provides for the promotion of proper use of resources, not taking more than was needed, as well as recycling to prevent damaging the environment through excessive pollution and digging more landfills than are actually necessary. The main basis of weak anthropocentrism is through the establishment of a rational behavior through the comparison of felt preferences and considered preferences. A felt preference is a need or desire that can be temporarily satisfied by a specific experience. Felt preferences do have the potential to be rational. However, they usually are not made on a rational decision-making process and therefore do have room for criticism. In the case of my project, not using a reusable water bottle and buying and consuming multiple plastic bottles a day would be considered a felt preference because they were satisfying a temporary need, such as rehydrating after a workout or providing something to wash down my lunch. A considered preference is a need that an individual expresses after a careful deliberation that is consistent with some form of a worldview. In the case of my project, the behavior of using a reusable water bottle would be dubbed as a considered preference because the process of deciding to use a reusable water bottle requires putting forth an effort to make the conscious decision to fill up that bottle and use it consistently compared to the wasteful behavior of acquiring and trashing multiple plastic bottles a day. Norton's weak anthropocentrism would require us all to make this more rational decision of using a reusable water bottle because making the conscious choice for the considered preference of using a reusable water bottle cuts down on our plastic waste that is going into landfills and damaging the ecosystems in which these landfills are dug. Hill's virtue ethic not only accounts for human interests, but also takes animal and plant interests into consideration. The main process of the virtue ethic is to raise a different moral question. It more focuses on not to say why something is specifically wrong, but what type of person would want to do what is considered immoral. Even if there is no convincing evidence to prove how a destructive activity is specifically wrong, the ability to find the willingness to indulge in these specific activities reflects an absence of human traits in a specific person. So one of the main traits that Hill is trying to address is human indifference towards nature. Indifference usually signifies an absence of traits that we would normally want to encourage in the virtue ethic, because they provide the base for developing the proper moral virtues. Along with addressing this indifference is also working with a person to develop a self-acceptance, to acknowledge the fact that humans are a part of nature and their environment, and by taking part in destructive behaviors that are also damaging themselves. In the case of my project, not using a reusable water bottle is exemplifying indifference towards the environment and the damage that this behavior is causing. Through the virtue ethic, Hill would encourage this behavior be replaced by using a reusable water bottle because it is less damaging to the environment by limiting the amount of plastic going into landfills, and therefore also limiting the need for new landfills to be dug, and thereby saving the lives of plants that would have been killed and damaging the environments of animals and humans that live in that specific area.